They ducked. You noticed it. A few seconds later, they duck again. Now you know. They like to duck here. Perfect. The situation appears again. This time though, you throw the mid. Counter hit. Beautiful. You figured them out. And that's exactly where the problem begins. Because now, you want to do it again. Same situation, same mid, but blocked. You tried it again, but it's been blocked once again. This time, you've been punished. But instead of changing, you become even more convinced. No, I know that they duck here. Except, they've adapted. They don't anymore. They changed. You didn't. And suddenly, the read that helped you win the first round is becoming the reason you are now losing the next one. That's one of the strangest traps in competitive Tekken. Sometimes being right can become more dangerous than being wrong. Welcome back to How Winners Think. We've talked a lot about reading your opponent, recognizing habits, finding patterns, understanding tendencies. These are essential competitive skills. But there's another side nobody talks about. What happens after you get the read? Because recognizing a pattern is only the beginning. The real skill is knowing when that pattern no longer exists. Your opponent isn't a training dummy. They are actually watching you too. They are learning. They are adapting. And once you punish one of their habits, they might stop doing it. Today, we are talking about why good reads can become bad decisions, how confirmation bias traps players inside outdated information, and why the strongest competitors aren't loyal to what they believed in 10 seconds ago. They are loyal to what the evidence is telling them as of right now. There's a psychological reward that comes from correctly reading someone. You notice the pattern, you predict their behavior, and then exactly what you expected happens. That feels good because for a moment the match makes sense. The chaos disappears. You feel like you've solved the opponent. They always duck. They always press here. They always sidestep after this. But now you have an answer. And once the brain believes it has found an answer, it becomes very reluctant to give it up. That's where the danger thus starts to begin. Because instead of continuing to observe, you start trying to prove yourself right. Here is something every competitive player needs to understand. A read is not permanent. It is a snapshot. It tells you what your opponent was doing during a particular period of the match. That's valuable information, but information gets old. Imagine your opponent challenges after a certain situation twice. You notice. The third time, you set the trap. They press, counter hit, perfect. But now, think about what just happened from their perspective. They just got punished. They learned something too. Maybe next time, they block. And if you're still expecting the challenge, you are now working with outdated information. Your read wasn't wrong. It simply just expired. There's a psychological concept called confirmation bias. Once we believe something, our brains naturally become better at noticing information that supports that belief, and worse at noticing information that contradicts it. In Tekken, that can become incredibly dangerous. You decide that this player always ducks. Now every duck feels important. See, I knew it. But what about the 5 times that they stood there and just blocked? Your brain doesn't care about those. They don't fit the story. Or maybe you decided that this player mashes constantly, so you keep setting traps, but they have already stopped pressing. You are no longer playing against their behavior. You are now playing against your memory of their behavior, and those are not the same opponent. This is where competitive ego becomes subtle. Most people think ego tends to mean arrogance, taunting, thinking you are better than everyone. But ego can appear in another form, wanting desperately to be correct. You made the read. You predicted their behavior. Now part of you wants the opponent to just keep doing it because it proves that you understood them. But Tekken doesn't reward you for being correct about the past. It rewards you for making the best decision now. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is abandon a read that was completely correct 30 seconds ago. Not because you failed, but because the situation had changed. Changing your mind when the evidence changes isn't weakness, it's intelligence. This is the part players forget. You are not the only person adapting. Every time you punish something, you are sending information back. You punish their duck with a mid. Now they know you are watching for the duck. You counter hit their challenge. Now they know you expect them to press. You break their throw. Now they know you have recognized the setup. Every successful read changes the match. Think about that. The moment your read succeeds, you may have already changed the behavior you were reading. That's why high-level Tekken constantly evolves. You learn them. They realize you've learned them. Now they change. You then noticed the change. Then you change again. That is the real battle. Here's a better way to think about reads. Treat them like hypotheses, not facts. Instead of saying they always duck here, think to yourself, I think that they currently prefer ducking here. That is a completely different mindset because now you are leaving room for new information. You observe, you create a prediction, you test it, then you update it. Observation, prediction, test, update, again and again and again. That's how strong competitors think. They are constantly updating their understanding of the player in front of them. They are not trying to discover one answer and hold on to it forever. This is where things tends to become really interesting. You see, average players change when something stops working. Great players sometimes change before it stops working. Why, you may ask? Because they understand the opponent is learning. Let's say your opponent has ducked twice. You punish them with a mid. Now you could immediately try the mid again, but maybe it won't work, or maybe it will work. Although a strong competitor thinks one layer deeper. They know I saw the duck. What do they expect me to do now is what they think. Suddenly, the game isn't about the original pattern anymore. It's about how both players are reacting to the information. This is where Tekken becomes psychological, chess. You are not just reading buttons, you are reading adaptation itself. Patterns matter. We absolutely want to identify them, but there's an important difference: constant and permanent. Someone might constantly change your pressure or challenge your pressure up until you punish them. Someone might constantly duck throws until you start launching them. Someone might even constantly sidestep until you start tracking them. Their behavior was real. Your read was real. But competitive behavior is conditional. People change when the cost changes. So when you punish a habit, don't automatically expect the habit to remain. Watch for what happens next, because sometimes the most valuable information comes immediately after you have shown them that you know. During your next rank session, I want you to add 2 words to every read that you make. Those words are, for now. Instead of, they always duck here, say, they are ducking here for now. Instead of they always challenge, say they are challenging for now. Instead of they can't break throws, say they are not breaking throws for now. Those two words might seem insignificant, but psychologically they are powerful because they prevent your observation from becoming an identity. You are describing current behavior, not permanently defining the player. Then, after you punish the habit, watch carefully. Don't immediately assume it will happen again. Ask yourself, did my last punish change their behavior? Now, you're not simply reading your opponent, you are tracking their adaptation, and that's a much higher level of competition. The goal isn't to always be right. The goal is to always stay accurate as much as possible. Those are different things. Being right says I figured them out. Staying accurate says this is what I currently believed based on what I'm seeing. One protects your ego, the other protects your decision making. If you remember one thing from this video, remember this. Don't become loyal to your reads. Become loyal to the evidence. Because the moment the evidence changes, your opinion should change with it. The next time you think you have figured someone out, don't celebrate yet. Watch them. You punish the duck, what happened next? You punish the challenge, what happened next? You exposed the habit, what happened next? Because that's where the next layer of the match begins. Your opponent isn't frozen in time. They are learning, they are adapting, they are changing. And if you're still fighting the player that they were 30 seconds ago, then you are already behind. This has been how winners think. Until next time, a great read tells you what your opponent was doing. A great competitor notices the moment that they stop. Think first.